All right, we've got a full house here today. This is great. So good morning, everybody. So welcome to the first breakout session on innovations here at MagentoLive UK. My name is Eric Irway. I'm the Senior UX Manager based in Austin, Texas, responsible for the order management, business intelligence, and marketplace products. So I am super thrilled to be here at MagentoLive UK, and even more thrilled that everybody's here and we have a full house to talk about something that's really near and dear to my heart, which is mobile experience and really the innovations inside of that. And so now's a more exciting time than ever. Customers are asking more of mobile than ever before. And we're at a time now where technology-wise, we're on the cusp of a lot of major changes, a lot of really interesting challenges that could affect the experience and more importantly, could affect your business as well, including things like native applications and progressive web applications as well. So it's a pretty exciting time to be a part of this. And so today we're going to talk a little bit about that, and we're going to do our best to cover as much as we possibly can in 30 minutes on this, and have some fun along the way. So we're going to be supporting things with some case studies, with some examples. And as a part of this exercise, we wanted to bring in some experts. And so as part of this process, I knew very quickly I couldn't do this alone. And so I'm really pleased, I'm really fortunate enough to be joined by some of the experts in here, as many as we could possibly put on the stage here in this room. And so without further ado, I'd like to introduce John, Jamie, Dave, and Elko, and have them do some introductions. So.
Cool. Good morning. Good morning, everyone. So my name's John Fitchett. I'm the Managing Director at eBizmart's POS. We are a point-of-sale solution provider native to the Magento platforms, both MDC and MCOM, or order management system from Magento. I do apologise in advance. I've got a bit of a cold, so if you struggle to hear me, I do apologise, but I'll try my best.
I'm James Heskison of JH. We've been Magento partner for 8 years, one of the best solution partners in the UK. We are the winner of the Best Mobile Experience Awards 2 years running at Magento Imagine, so we know a heck of a lot about mobile. Hopefully we can share some of that with you today.
Hey, I'm Dave Smallwood. I look after large merchant enterprise sales at PayPal and marketplaces too, more recently. So yeah, we've been working with Magento for a number of years. Yeah.
Hi, I'm Elko. I'm the Chief Commercial Officer for JMango 360. And JMango is a platform, a SaaS platform that allows any Magento merchant or Magento solution partner to easily build a native integrated app, shopping app, obviously for Magento, both enterprise and community.
Great. So we're going to break things down to the three major themes today: platforms, retail, and experience. And so as moderator, I'm going to do my very best, because we have a pretty condensed format here, to save a couple minutes at the end, because I know there's some questions from the audience. And so we'll do our best to kind of guide our way through these, and again, really have a good conversation along the way. So let's go ahead and get started. So with regard to platforms and the future of mobile applications, so Dave, we talked a little bit about some of your experiences at PayPal, specifically around checkout and that desktop experience. Can you tell us a little bit more about that?
Sure, absolutely. So just to frame the conversation a little bit, let's talk about conversion, just full stop. And initially, we're looking at web. And this is a survey that was done this year by Ovum. And say 50% of your customers make it through the site. The other 50% don't, and this is how it's broken down at a very high level. And the four main drivers of conversion drop-off are friction in checkout. You hear it all the time. It's still there. It's a consistent theme, something you really need to think about. And what does friction mean? Asking your customers to do anything, right? Next is lack of credit or lending, and that's a new thing that's come into the frame in the last year or so. So we've seen that rising up through the list. Payment method of choice. They're front and center, and actually offering them things that they want to be able to use or like to be able to use. And then lastly, shipping options and costs come with that. And you're talking about a significant amount of the conversion drop-off is made up in that group there. But that's web, right? So let's move on to mobile a little. To cover off mobile in a short summary, in the UK specifically, depending on which piece of information you look at, the mobile is the #1 device that's being used to access the internet in the UK today. Some people are saying it was 2016 that happened. Some people are saying it's 2017. We spend about 2 hours more on mobile than other devices today too. And consumers in the UK are accessing their mobile devices between 110 and 150 times a day. and 90% of 16 to 24-year-olds are using a smartphone. So it's already here, right? We've heard this also. It's definitely something that everyone needs to focus on. And now if we deep dive specifically into the consumer behaviors that we're seeing around conversion drop-off on the next slide. 37% of people that drop off a mobile journey cite small screen size as the number one reason, or one of the main reasons for doing so. Payment friction. Really, really classic example. Cards were made for being able to shop in person in a store. We, as a business and as an industry, have sort of shoehorned that into being able to do it online. But it's still not a great experience, right? So you have to enter your 16 digits, your first, seventh, and last digit of a secret password that you've probably forgotten, and then the address, and then a password, right? So that needs to shift if you want to increase conversion. At the same time, consumers don't feel that they're safe entering that information on their mobile. So you're on a train, you're on a park bench, trying to do a transaction, tapping away with your card number. Customers don't like that. And really interestingly, 63% of customers in the survey said that they would feel less that they would actually buy from your website if you had a poor mobile experience. So it's critical to get it right on mobile now because it impacts your whole business. It's not just the mobile flow, it's everything. And then the latest stat for the UK is that 86% of UK online buyers will be using their mobile at least once this year to do so. It's not many people that aren't, right? And that will represent £31.4 billion worth of spend of the total of 70 billion in the UK. So it's a significant chunk of the spend out there. There's actually more transactions happening on mobile than there are off mobile, but the size of the transactions are smaller. So if we look spend versus transaction size, there's less spend on mobile than there is on desktop still, but there's more transactions on mobile than there is on desktop. So it's really, really key and critical to keep that in focus.
Great.
Thanks.
Thanks, Dave. So let's build on that conversation around conversion. So Elko, when we first started talking a couple weeks ago, had some really interesting stats and some really interesting stories that he shared at some previous Magento events that I thought would be really, relevant for this topic. So Elko, would you mind sharing those for us?
Sure. Yeah, so Dave already touched on it, and Mark Lefel also mentioned it yesterday in his talk. Conversion on mobile websites overall is just a lot lower than desktop. It's really a big concern for a lot of online merchants. So I don't know if there are any merchants here that feel the same about that. But there's actually been research into the different channels, because mobile is not just one channel. There's mobile websites and there's apps. And I'm sure a lot of you know Criteo. They're, I think, the world leader when it comes to online performance marketing. They've done research into it. They released this bi-yearly, or no, twice a year. They release this State of Mobile Commerce report, also for the UK. And what they found out is astonishingly, there's a huge difference between mobile websites and apps. So they confirm, and you see this on the right-hand side, that mobile browsers convert a lot lower, a lot less than desktop. But it's strange to see that apps actually convert a lot better. They convert 1.5 times better than desktop and 3 times better than mobile browsers. Now, why is this? You see that on the left-hand side. You see that basically every point in the path to purchase is just better on apps, and that's just because mobile websites were never websites HTML was never invented for mobile. Apps are native. So if you really have a good native app, the user experience is better, the flow is better, and as a result, the conversion is also 3 times higher. Now, if we move to the next slide. So last month, I also attended Meet Magento in the Netherlands, and there also was a mobile panel like this. And there's always someone, when you talk about the considerably higher conversion in apps, there's always someone in the room saying, well, isn't that in the first place because those persons most likely to download your apps are your most engaged customers already? So there's a huge company in the Netherlands, in fact the number one in e-commerce in the Netherlands, called bol.com. They A/B tested this because they also wanted to find that out. So what they did is they tracked a group of consumers 1 year prior to downloading the app. So a group with similar behavioral patterns, similar purchase frequency. And then after 1 year, half of them started downloading that app as a result of a mention in the newsletter of bol.com. And almost instantly, they saw that, that the frequency, the number of transactions that group of app users did, was 25 to 30% higher than compared to group A. So that's a huge uptake. And encouraged by this result, they also decided, okay, let's see if we can also get that other group to also download the app, and we'll go at it more aggressively this time. So they also started advertising, Twitter, Google, and when they did, they expected that people that would download the app as a result of paid advertising, they wouldn't see this enormous uptake. But they were really astonished to find out that this group behaved similarly. So after downloading the app, even if it's more pushed through paid advertising, this group became 25 to 30% more active. And that's purely because of that more native UX, that native user experience.
That's great.
Oh yeah, and this
Yeah, the case study on Cruyff was really interesting as well. So could you mind sharing that as well? Yeah.
Sure. So I don't know if there are many football fans here in the audience. For the Americans, that's soccer. So Cruyff is one of the most famous soccer players ever. He also has his own shoes brand called Cruyff Classics. And his solution partner has made a mobile app based on Magento Enterprise using our software, JMango. So they have Enterprise. And yeah, they saw they confirmed bol.com's finding, an immediate uptake in the conversion, in the number of transactions, in the recurrence of the customers. And interestingly enough, when I spoke about it with their e-commerce manager, he said to me, you know what, when I look at our marketing roadmap, most of the projects are geared towards gaining more consumers, acquisition. This, having an app, is not about acquisition. It's about increasing the loyalty and the engagement of your existing customers. So what he told me is that in their case, the 10% of their most engaged, most active customers were actually responsible for 50% of his total revenues. And he said that's quite standard in the fashion industry. So he said he calculated that, you know, if that group would move from, on average, 6 transactions a year to 7 transactions a year, he would actually do 1/6 more on half of his revenue. So he said, well, that's a really, really easy win for me to have an app and to increase my sale with my most loyal and engaged customers.
Excellent. Thanks, Elko. Any other comments from the rest of you? Otherwise, we may want to switch gears to retail. So, any other? Yeah.
I'd just back up what you guys are saying. I think in terms of mobile, really, where the experience has been focused on for mobile, we see a heck of a bigger conversion. And for a lot of our clients, mobile conversions outweighing desktop because we focused on mobile first and desktop second. So when you look at your analytics and you break down your audience and you see 70% plus are on mobile, not desktop, the desktop design shouldn't be the first thing you're reviewing. They shouldn't be the first things you're asking for from your solution partner. I think the accessibility of things like apps and the price now makes them a heck of a lot more achievable for every brand, not just the people with a heck of a lot of money. That's
great. So let's switch gears then to retail. That's one down, 2 to go. I know we're going to go quickly through this. So let's talk a little bit about what's happening in retail and omnichannel. So John, I know we work with you quite a bit on the UX side around MCOM, and would love to hear you talk about some of the experiences both with Lamia and then also some with the point of sale.
Yeah, sure. So just to give you a bit of background experience from my side, we're seeing a bit of transformation from the retail point of view, where those typical legacy desktop Windows-based fixed point of sales are being displaced by your tablet-based solutions and very much being disrupted in that marketplace, in that industry. if we go back to actually Q1, there was an Apple earnings call back in Q1 where they announced that Revel Systems, another tablet-based solution provider, were actually the largest iPad point-of-sale solution provider for Apple, with about 20,000 deployments. And bearing in mind that that's only been going for 7 years, that's a huge achievement for those guys to get such a great traction in the marketplace in such a short period of time. But it just shows you that that is changing the retail actual viewpoint of point of sale, moving it from that fixed position into very much a tablet-based mobile instance, where actually the store associate now becomes the clienteling associate and actually talks through that process of selling that product, especially high ticket value items, to that consumer that's walking in. And as Elko mentioned, the traction that consumer apps are getting, and the time spent, consumers spending actually on retailers' apps, there's a great opportunity now really for retailers using tablet-based solutions and app solutions to actually interact with that consumer app. Now, it's great that if you're in the vicinity of the retail location, you can actually, using location services, actually pop up a message on the screen of the consumer's app to say, here's a discount, come in, 10% off if you come in today. But even better, using iBeacon technology in store, for example, you could actually fire up the actual consumer's loyalty card. So when they come to actually talk to the retail associate, they can actually scan the QR code, which has all the details about the consumer, and have a bit more information about that consumer at point of sale. Some people actually don't like that, they don't like the intrusion. But for me personally, it'd be great that, that the retailer understands me as a consumer and knows my purchasing behaviour. Every time I go into Boots and I buy a day and night nurse, on my 4th attempt, I'd want the pharmacist to say to me, actually, Mr. Fitchett, it's not a bacterial infection, you've probably got a virus that's highly contagious, and, you best go and see a doctor. Sorry, Jamie and Eric. But yeah, that's how retail, the app landscape is changing. And what we did with Lamia, one of our partners, they actually, built a solution encompassing Magento as that very much, unified commerce platform that's running all their various, touch points, including POS, that when that consumer did walk in, their iPass actually popped up to their wallet to say, right, here's your QR code, this is all your customer details, get the store associate to actually scan that, and they'll have more information about you. And likewise, it's going slightly further on and onto the next slide. There's now an opportunity to really make that store associate work a little bit harder, actually, because it's not just about point of sale. It's more about clienteling, point of service, and very much making that retail unit a distribution centre as well, allowing for that ship from store. And click and collect, and my experiences of click and collect, especially if you've ever been to John Lewis, you're very much going into the basement. You're not actually going into store. You're going into a side entrance where you're picking up your goods, literally walking in, picking up your goods, and walking out. Opportunity now for the retail associate to actually engage with that customer, not only give them all the products that they've clicked and collected, but actually talk them through an upsell and cross-sell opportunity as well. So there's multiple benefits of these new solutions, especially in retail. To as we've heard from this panel and other panels that have been going on, that it's not about in-store, mobile, e-com, it's more just commerce and how we can bring all that platform together. Absolutely.
So let's switch gears a little bit. And so I know, Jamie, you talked a little bit about some of your experiences at JH, and really, I think some of the big questions, and I think we've talked a lot about the why, right? But I think really the how and the what I think needs to be covered. So let's say you're sitting in this audience. How do we rethink the experience? Where would you get started with something like this?
So for us, the first thing we do is we sit people down and we say, what do you want the customer's experience to be with your brand? When they touch you at any point in the journey, what do you want them to be feeling? What do you want their reaction to be? And what don't you want them to have? So if you go away and you just list 3 things that customer should feel about you when they're interacting with the app, the site, the POS system, whatever it may be, the customer support system, and then you say, well, these are the 3 things I don't want me to do. It's about making sure that's consistent across the board. We know these things are accessible. We know they can integrate with a system like Magento. They aren't disconnected. That overall view of a customer is perfectly achievable for everybody in this room. It's about how do we leverage that to deliver the customer experience that we want to deliver every single day. And it means the small guys can now deliver that top-end experience where I can see that you have just shopped in store, but you browsed online this morning to find that item, and I don't have to say, okay, my conversion rate's low on this mobile device. I can say, well, actually, it's converting my in-store customers very well. I can see that they went to the till. I can see what their loyalty is over time over various platforms. And it's really about understanding what do you want that experience to be, because users care about the front end, what they interact with. When you sit down and you plan your sites and you review that brief, and 80% of that work is operational to benefit yourself, just question it for a second and say, what are we actually doing to focus and double down on that customer experience? What are we doubling down on to make us stand out against these guys? Because when you go through e-commerce sites and you say, okay, this one kind of looks just like the rest, it's often because that was the last thing in the chain. That was the last thing that they looked at. The website was the after product of all the work that went before it. And actually, you need to be looking at the marginal gains over time to make those small changes that add up to a lot.
That's great. So we got a couple more minutes before Q&A, and I know, again, this is a fairly condensed session. Any other comments or examples from an experience standpoint? Yeah.
Just to carry on that point there,
Yeah.
the cost of technology is significantly driving down over time, right? And it's easier and easier for businesses to deploy iPads right across their estate and not have to rely on the old technologies that they feel tied by. And just keep continually assessing your options there is something that we would really recommend doing, because if you're not, someone probably will be.
It's absolutely that. It's if you're not looking for how to do 10% better than you're doing right now, you've stopped and your competitor hasn't. And in 6 months' time, you'll be saying, that competitor's done something really great, maybe we should do that. And actually, you're the guys who should be coming up with the ideas. You're the ones that should be surveying your customers, that should be getting out there and saying, how can I make that a happier place? How can I make that a better journey? How can I connect these things together, rather than them be separate roadmaps that don't intertwine, that don't lead the field? And pushing those competitors actually to chase you because you went out jogging and you can do the 5K now, and they sat at the sofa on the way home watching TV.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I would say from our experience, especially, again, if you've been to one of our design thinking workshops, it's all about research and staying connected to the customers. And what we're talking about here is way more than just a technology consideration, right? It's making sure that you're regularly syncing with the customers, understanding their needs, and applying it to whatever that solution might be at the right time. It's not an easy answer, but if you use the right method, you'll find it. So, great. Well, we believe it or not, we're almost at the end here. This is a quick session, but we did promise some time for Q&A. I know this is a hot topic for many of you here. So we're going to open things up to questions and answers. Galise actually is in the back. She's got the mic as well for those in the back, and we can pass it up to the front if needed. So what kind of questions do we have from the audience about the mobile innovations?
I have a question.
Sure.
Yeah. Bearing in mind that, can you hear me?
Yep.
Yeah, bearing in mind that mobile apps convert better than...
There's a mic there, sorry.
Sorry. So bearing in mind that apps convert better, what would you do? Where would you send your email traffic, and how would you handle that if you've got a mobile app and then you've also got a responsive website? There's an opportunity there to disrupt the customer journey, if that makes sense.
Yeah, so I'm not saying ditch your mobile website. You need to keep your mobile website, and there's a logical connection between email and mobile website, just as there is between push notifications and apps. And actually, if you read about push notifications, it's a very powerful medium. Email has become somewhat of a spam box. So the open rate on push notifications is 72%. And any email marketeer would dream of having an open rate of 72%. Now, the people who actually open push notifications, 92% of those do that within the hour of the push notification having been sent. So there's also a huge urgency there. So instead of thinking, how can I direct my emails to my app, you should be thinking, how can I get more app downloads? And then I'll start with doing push notifications. But if you really want to know the answer, technically seen, it is possible to also direct an email, a link in an email, directly to an app. And now that there's deep linking available within apps, you can also then land directly on the product page or the subcategory page. You don't have to land them on the homepage of the app anymore. So it's possible, yeah.
That's a great question. Any other questions from the audience? Can't all be that shy. All right, we've got one right here.
Obviously, we heard yesterday from the representative from Google about how now introducing progressive web apps. I work as a developer, so obviously we have to push these ideas past clients for them to want to obviously go forward. What would be your sort of suggestions for the next couple of years if we were to suggest, obviously at the moment we have native web apps, but should we really be pushing for the progressive web apps over this instead?
Yeah, let me also answer that one, because we've looked extensively into PWAs as well. Yeah. So for those that are less familiar with it, it basically it's an app built with web technology that mimics a native app. So it's not the real thing, and this is already. I'm not purely objective, of course, but this is already one of the reasons why we decided not to go into it. So yeah, it's better than responsive, but it's not that new really, because one of the features, add to home screen, this is something that's been on every smartphone for the last 7 years already, an add to home screen button. So you could do that already. You don't need a PWA for that. When it really comes to adoption, there's one very important thing to notice. Of course, it's very logical that Magento starts here, because PWAs are very close to the competencies that Magento already has in-house, and Magento, by my knowledge, doesn't have any iOS or Android developers in-house. But I don't think Magento will stop here. They need to set the next step too. And the next step would be, in the UK, 62% of the mobile transactions are carried out on an Apple device. And PWAs don't work for Apple. They don't work for Safari. So it's a partial solution, but it's not quite a solution for everyone yet.
Yeah, and that's a great question. I mean, from a UX standpoint, strictly, we're really excited about the potential, right? The announcement yesterday was great, but it's just the beginning, and I think it gets down to the method on what's really right for your business, and for us, it's something we need to continue looking into, and there's definitely some benefits there. Again, experientially, a lot of the benefits that we've talked about from a native perspective apply directly to PWAs, and that's great, but it's not necessarily a cure-all for everything either. So, but we're pretty excited about them. Yep. Excellent. Any other questions? I'm going to pull our best Bob Moore. We can stare into the audience until we get one more. Any more? I've got a few of my own if nobody else has. I haven't told these guys yet though. So we did cover PWA. I assumed that would come up. But so I think maybe the one question, and we've only got a minute here, and so. And a last thought. So, as a merchant, how many? There's so many decisions to make in here. How would you even begin to decide on choosing a path here? We covered a little bit, but there's anything else that we wanted to as kind of parting words for the folks here in the audience? Yeah.
So I think from going back to being where your customer is, I think the decision really is not about one platform or another. It's not about saying this is the core focus. It used to be, let's do a website. Okay, let's The retail will take care of itself. That's a separate thing. Now it's about how do you bring those together? How do you make sure that's a consistent experience, but how do you make sure that it's great wherever it is? So the key decisions for me is how you can keep those roadmaps in parallel to each other and how you can keep them as close together as possible so that the experience doesn't become amazing on web because you've just done this amazing website, and then you go into store and you think, there's not even loyalty cards here anymore. What are these gift points that I see online that don't exist inside the store? It's an overall execution, not just a one-part execution that doesn't touch the other sides of the business.
Great. So thank you. So again, we're at our time now. So thank you again so much for joining our session here. Thank you so much to John, to Jamie, to Dave, and Elko. It's been great. So if you have any questions, we'll stick around for a few more minutes. Otherwise, enjoy the rest of the conference. Thank you so much.